Chapter 151. Summoning Legions, Part 1. Later that day, Alex doesn't return to Blackfall. Instead, his carriage turns north, streaking across the sky toward the heart of his kingdom, Noctaris City. The capital rises like obsidian flame from the land, dark spires crowned with glimmering wards, cascading waterfalls flowing from floating islands, and banners bearing Alex's crest billowing in the wind. At its core, the grand palace looms, its towers scraping the clouds. Hours later, the palace gates open. Servants bow low, but Alex says nothing. He moves through the halls in silence, each step echoing against polished stone and golden fixtures. Drea follows for a time, but at the throne room's entrance, Alex waves her off. She stops, bows quietly, and says, "I'll have tea ready when you're done, Your Majesty." The massive doors shut behind him. He stands alone in the vast throne chamber. Sunlight filters through the skylight above the throne, casting long, broken shadows along the floor. And then, shimmer. A transparent screen floats into view, golden text flickering faintly across its surface. His status, his wealth, his resources. Alex leans against the throne and narrows his eyes as numbers scroll into focus. Gold, 12 million, 9 million. 3 million already gone. Given to Thano for Ashlight's reconstruction. He exhales through his nose. Slowly, he lowers himself into the throne, elbows resting on the armrests, hands steepled. "Revive the army," he murmurs. "Or revive my subordinates." His voice echoes quietly in the empty chamber. Alex exhales and shifts his gaze. "Let's see what I'm working with." He flicks his fingers across the air, and the transparent interface shifts. Lines of gold-etched text scroll downward. A new tab pulses faintly. Legion Interference. He taps it. The air grows heavier as the Legion Interference tab opens fully, the floating screen reshaping into a wide panel of glowing banners, ancient crests, and dormant sigils. Each insignia pulses faintly, remnants of loyalty bound in blood, magic, and bone. Alex straightens in his throne, his gaze steady. "Show me their states." The interface responds. Legion Overview. Status. Dormant. Revival options available. 5. Funds remaining. 9 million gold. One by one, the banners unfurl. The Ashen Fangs. Crest. A cracked dragon's tooth wreathed in smoke and flame. "They were the destroyers," Alex murmurs. "Draconics, wyvern spawn, and molten hounds." The Ashen Fangs were a legion of elemental warbeasts, half-born from dragonkin bloodlines, firebound entities, and volcanic creatures. Their purpose, pure offense. Cities fell in hours when the Ashen Fangs flew. Revival cost per soldier, 100,000 gold. Max possible revives, 90 soldiers. Alex frowns. Too few. Even 90 of them could destroy a fortress, but not hold it. The Grave Hollow Brood. Crest. A black centipede coiled around a skeletal ribcage. "Burrowers," he says. "Undead insects, tomb beasts, hive spawn." The brood specialized in ambushes and overwhelming numbers. They struck from underground, from ruin, from silence. The Grave Hollow Brood didn't march, they infested. Revival cost per soldier, 75,000 gold. Max possible revives, 120 soldiers. The Ironclad Vanguard. Crest. A steel-plated shield with a clenched fist at its center. "Living armor," Alex mutters. Steel-born juggernauts. Iron-blood orcs. Forge-bound. The Ironclad Vanguard were humanoids fused with metal, walking fortresses with reinforced limbs and steel-carved skin. Their discipline and defense were unmatched, pushing through enemy lines with crushing force. Revival cost per soldier, 60,000 gold. Max possible revives, 150 soldiers. The Emberfang Legion. Crest. A roaring flame entwined with a jagged fang. "Fireborn," Alex says. "Ifrit, Ember Devils, Ashborn Berserkers." The Emberfang Legion was a force of humanoid flame wielders. They wielded molten weapons, cloaked in living fire, their strikes scorching and their presence smoldering. They thrived in chaos, overwhelming enemies with relentless, fiery assaults. Revival cost per soldier, 40,000 gold. Max possible revives, 225 soldiers. The Bone Piercers, crest. A trident through a cracked skull, draped in faded crimson. Alex's gaze lingers. My first legion. The Bone Piercers were skeletal brutes, wights, carrion ogres and marrow hounds. Undying, unyielding, unrelenting. They didn't break formation. They didn't panic. They simply obeyed. Revival cost per soldier, 2,000 gold. Max possible revives, 4,500 soldiers. Loyal to the end, he whispers. And still the only ones I can revive in great numbers. The system chimes softly, offering a final screen. You may revive one full legion or divide resources across multiple. Choose carefully. Remaining funds, 9 million gold. Alex leans back, fingers steepled. If I take 90 Ashenfangs, he doubt that the high-level ones that will get revive. His fingers tap against the throne arm. If I take Bone Piercers 10,000 strong, not flashy, but they'll be enough for Valgro's kingdom. A long pause, then he nods. Alex stands at the edge of the Legion revival grounds, a secluded area within Noctara City known only to him and a select few. The air is thick with the scent of ancient incense and the faint hum of latent magic. Around him, banners of his legions flutter in the breeze, each representing a formidable force he once commanded. The ground beneath his feet is etched with runes, glowing faintly, marking the sacred space where his legions can be resurrected. He walks with purpose, his eyes scanning the banners until they settle on the one he seeks, the Bone Piercers. The banner depicts a cracked skull pierced by a trident, draped in faded crimson. Memories of battles fought and victories won flood his mind. These were his first legion, loyal and unyielding. Approaching the banner, Alex raises his hand, and the air shifts. A translucent interface materializes before him, displaying the revival options for the Bone Piercers. Legion Revival, Bone Piercers. Revival cost per soldier, 2,000 gold. Max possible revives, 4,500 soldiers. Funds remaining, 9 million gold. Alex's gaze hardens. With his remaining funds, he can revive the full strength of the Bone Piercers. He doesn't hesitate. The decision is made. He speaks the command aloud, his voice steady and commanding. Alex, revive the Bone Piercers. The ground trembles as the magic takes hold. From the earth, skeletal warriors begin to emerge, their bones clattering as they form ranks. Alongside them, wights clad in tattered armor, carrion ogres with hollow eyes, and marrow hounds with glowing fangs rise from the soil. They stand in perfect formation, awaiting their master's command. Alex surveys the assembled legion, a sense of pride swelling within him. These were his first soldiers, his most loyal. They had fought beside him in countless battles, and now they would stand with him once more. He raises his hand, and the legion bows in unison. Rise, my Bone Piercers! The kingdom calls upon you once again. With a unified roar, the legion springs to life, ready to serve their master in the battles to come. The ground trembles as the last of the Bone Piercers rise, their skeletal forms adorned with ancient armor and weapons. Each soldier stands at attention, their hollow eyes glowing with a faint blue light. Alex surveys the legion, noting the uniformity and discipline that has not diminished over time. All are Tier 4 as expected. He had forged this legion during his time as a Tier 6, and while the most powerful among them remain dormant, the strength of these warriors is undeniable. He turns, the banner of the Bone Piercers unfurling behind him, and begins the march out of the revival grounds. The legion follows in perfect formation, their footsteps synchronized, creating a rhythmic cadence that echoes through the city streets. As they enter the heart of Noctara City, the soldiers pause in their activities, eyes widening at the sight before them. The Bone Piercers, one of the legendary legions of His Majesty. A soldier just got out of training nudges his comrade. Is that the bone piercers? He whispers, awe evident in his voice. His companion nods slowly, eyes fixed on the marching legion. I heard stories about them, he murmurs. Never thought I'd see them with my own eyes. As the bone piercers march through the streets of Noctara City, their disciplined formation draw awe and reverence from the onlookers. Many of the soldiers, originating from other cities within Alex's kingdom in the game, have only heard tales of these legendary warriors. Now, witnessing them firsthand, the atmosphere is thick with a mix of fear and admiration. Alex steps out of the carriage, his boots clicking softly against the marble steps. The bone piercers remain in formation, a silent and imposing presence behind him. As his gaze scans the scene, his attention is drawn to General Goreth standing at the top of the steps, waiting with his customary stoicism. The general, clad in his dark steel armor, stands like a monument to strength and discipline. As Alex's gaze meets his, Goreth immediately kneels, lowering his head in deep respect. Your Majesty, Goreth says, his voice firm but laced with reverence. Alex's eyes flicker toward the formation of bone piercers standing behind him. Goreth rises from his kneel, his eyes scanning the ranks of the bone piercers behind Alex. The warriors stand motionless, their hollow eyes glowing faintly, a testament to their unwavering loyalty. Goreth said, Congratulations on reviving the Bone Piercer's Legion, Your Majesty. Alex nodded, his gaze steady. The reason I summoned you is to entrust you with their command. I want you to lead the Bone Piercers and march into the Valgros kingdom. Goreth's expression remains stoic, but a glint of determination flickers in his eyes. It will be done, Your Majesty. The Bone Piercers will bring Valgros to its knees. Good. Prepare them for departure. As Goreth turns to relay the orders, the Bone Piercers respond in unison, their formation shifting with mechanical precision. The soldiers watch in awe as the legendary legion prepares to march once more under the command of their unwavering king. Chapter 152, Bone Piercer's Legion, Part 2. The wind whispers through the crenellations of the watchtower, carrying with it the distant howls of creatures unknown. Two soldiers, clad in the Valgros kingdom's midnight blue armor, stand vigil under the pale glow of the twin moons. Soldier 1, a young man with eyes that dart nervously across the horizon, breaks the silence. Old man, I heard that the monsters have already conquered half of Ordea's cities. Soldier 2, older and bearing the scars of past battles, nods solemnly. I know. That's why I'm doing everything I can to get stationed elsewhere. After all, Tyrion is one of the two cities they'll likely attack first. The younger soldier swallows hard, gripping his spear tighter. So it's a 50-50 chance. Soldier 2 offers a grim smile. Pretty much. Suddenly, the younger soldier squints into the darkness. Wait, do you see that? He points toward the horizon, where a faint glimmer of metal catches the moonlight. Is that a skeleton in armor? No, he whispers, his voice tinged with disbelief. It's not just a skeleton. The older soldier steps forward, his eyes narrowing. He activates his Night Watcher's sight, a skill that enhances his vision in darkness and over long distances. The world sharpens, revealing a chilling sight. No, he whispers, his voice tinged with disbelief. It's not just a skeleton. By the gods! He sees a legion emerging from the mist, skeletal warriors clad in ancient armor, wights with glowing eyes, towering carrion ogres, and marrow hounds with fangs dripping ethereal ichor. It's not just a skeleton. There are things I've never seen before. Monsters, an entire army of them. The younger soldier's face pales. What do we do? The older soldier grips his weapon tightly, his voice steady. Soldier 2, we sound the alarm. Tyrion must be ready. As the horn blares into the night, the undead legion continues its march, unwavering and silent. The alarm bell tolls through the pre-dawn hush of Tyrion, its deep clang reverberating off stone walls and tiled roofs. Lanterns flare to life across the barracks and guild halls, casting flickering light on the hurried movements of soldiers and adventurers alike. Boots thud against cobblestones, armor clinks, and the sharp commands of officers cut through the chaos. In the central square, Captain Kedora stands atop a hastily assembled platform, his voice booming over the assembling crowd. Form ranks. Mages to the rear, archers on the flanks. Prepare for a defensive formation. Among the gathering defenders, whispers ripple through the ranks as eyes turn toward the horizon. This time a dense fog covers the bone piercers, unnatural in its speed and thickness, obscuring the landscape beyond the city's outer walls. What's causing that fog? It's not natural. Captain Kedora strides toward the two soldiers who first sounded the alarm, his expression stern. "Where's the enemy?" he demands. The older soldier, still catching his breath, replies, "Sir, the fog covered the enemies after we rang the emergency alarm. Before that, we saw something strange. A skeleton in armor." A murmur spreads through the assembled troops. "A skeleton? Walking?" One soldier mutters, disbelief evident in his voice. Another adds, "How can the dead walk?" Their questions are answered as the fog begins to dissipate, revealing a chilling sight. An army of skeletal warriors, wights, towering carrion ogres and monstrous creatures stands in formation. Marrow hounds with fangs dripping ethereal ichor, their hollow eyes glowing with an eerie light. Palpable fear grips the defenders. The captain, sensing the wavering morale, raises his voice. "Everyone focus. No matter what these creatures are, we must defend our homeland." The soldiers straighten, gripping their weapons tighter, resolve hardening in their eyes. Suddenly, a chilling aura envelopes the city. The air grows cold, and an oppressive silence falls. From the midst of the undead army, a colossal skeletal hand materializes, gripping a massive sword forged of deathly energy. With a deafening roar, the hand swings down, the sword cleaving through the city, destroying buildings and walls in its path. The ground shakes violently, and a cloud of dust and debris rises. For a moment, there is stunned silence. Then, a young soldier, tears streaming down his face, cries out, "Run!" With the city's defenses compromised, the undead surge forward with unnatural speed, their tier 4 strength overwhelming the human defenders. The undead breach the city's perimeter, their movements a blur. Skeletal warriors, their armor clanking, charge with weapons raised. Wights emit eerie wails as they leap onto the battlements, tearing through the ranks. Carrion ogres, massive and grotesque, swing their clubs, sending soldiers flying. Captain Kedora barely has time to shout, "Hold the line!" before the first skeletal blade carves clean through a man beside him. "Back! Regroup at the..." His command cuts off as a marrow hound crashes into him from above. Its jaws clamp down on his shoulder. He screams, channels his tier 4 skill, and blasts the creature off with a shockwave. He stumbles to his feet, blood pouring down his arm. A towering wight lands in front of him, eyes glowing with unnatural hunger. Kedora roars, "You want a real fight?" and hurls his blade into a spinning arc, igniting it with crimson energy. It slams into the wight's torso, only for the creature to catch it mid-swing. With a sickening crunch, it drives its own bony hand into Kedora's chest, piercing through the armor like paper. Kedora gasps, blood bubbling from his lips. His last words are a hoarse whisper. "Forgive me, Tyrion." He falls. The line breaks. All at once, the soldiers scream. Some fight. Most run. "Retreat!" someone yells. "They're tier 4. We're not. We're not even close. Gods help us." The older soldier from the watchtower, still gripping his spear, swings at a wight charging toward him. The blow connects only for the creature to grab the shaft and shatter it with one hand. The soldier drops the splinters, draws a dagger, and roars defiantly. "For Valgros." He doesn't last long. The wight pins him to the wall, claws tearing through his chestplate. Nearby, Soldier 1 runs, breath ragged. The noise behind him a deafening storm of battle cries and dying screams. A marrow hound clips his leg, and he tumbles to the ground. He turns, stabbing blindly upward, luck granting him one desperate wound across the beast's eye. It yelps and stumbles back, just in time for a carrion ogre's foot to crush the young soldier in a single brutal stomp. Buildings crumble as the undead pour in. Magic flares in the distance. Fireballs, lightning bolts, barriers, but none of it holds for long. Tier 2 and Tier 3 spells break against Tier 4 monstrosities. Mages scream as their protective circles shatter. An archer fires arrow after arrow from a rooftop, until a winged wight tears him from the ledge and drops him screaming into the crowd. No reinforcements come. No miracles descend. Tyrion falls in less than an hour. High above the city, Goreth floats with arms crossed, his massive form like a shadow against the moons. He watches the chaos below with a mixture of awe and amusement. Heh! Unbelievable, Goreth mutters, his tone rich with excitement. This is just 1/5 of Bonepiercer's legion, and still look at them. Below him, the undead continue their relentless advance. Buildings collapse, flames rise, and human screams echo beneath the clash of steel and bone. The air thrums with power, an oppressive, soul-chilling aura that pulses in waves. Goreth narrows his eyes as several skeletal step forward amidst the battlefield. Their hollow chests begin to glow faintly. One by one, they thrust their weapons into the ground and shout in a forgotten tongue. The air twists. Then it happens. With a sudden crack of energy, the earth quakes, and from their backs, spectral limbs begin to materialize. Colossal skeletal arms of pure aura, large enough to crush a wagon with a flick. They raise that phantom limb into the air. The effect is instant. Battle-forged, the Legion's signature ability. Even incomplete, even as flickering projections of only a single arm, the pressure it exudes makes the entire city feel like it's bowing. Goreth grins, a jagged smile splitting his craggy face. Oh ho! Now that's what I'm talking about. He spreads his arms wide, his immense body crackling with contained energy. Even just materializing one damn arm, and they turn the battlefield into a slaughterhouse. Hells, I'm getting fired up just watching this. One of the spectral arms slams into a tower where surviving mages are casting in desperation. The structure implodes in an explosion of debris and flame. Screams vanish under the thunderous crash. He floats down slightly, just enough to better watch the aftermath. Tyrion, once proud, now a ruin soaked in blood and ash. His eyes glow brighter. And this is just the beginning. The fires still burn. The screams have faded, now replaced by the groans of the wounded, and the eerie silence that follows only after something is truly broken. Tyrion now lies in ruin. Its spires shattered, its streets choked with debris and blood. Goreth hovers above the central plaza, arms folded, eyes scanning the remnants of resistance. Below, the last pockets of defenders, those too wounded to flee, too exhausted to fight, begin to drop their weapons. One by one, then in clusters. A soldier falls to his knees, sobbing, his sword clattering to the cobblestone. Another throws down her shield and raises trembling hands. "We surrender!" someone shouts hoarsely, and then others echo it. "We surrender! We surrender!" The cry spreads across what remains of Tyrion's defenders, rising above the silence like a desperate chant for mercy. Goreth's glowing eyes narrow. His voice echoes across the battlefield, deep and commanding, carried by unnatural wind. "Bone piercers, don't kill the ones that surrendered." Chapter 153, Master Elstag. The next morning, Pharion City, capital of Valgro's kingdom. Rain lashes against the palace windows, a soft yet relentless drumming that seems to echo the grim mood within the grand war chamber. Magic lamp flicker along the stone walls, their flames dancing as if disturbed by unseen hands. The atmosphere is thick, heavy with dread. King Rewalt sits at the head of the long obsidian table, hands clasped tightly before him. His usually calm, commanding face is pale and tight with tension. A high-ranking scout finishes his report with trembling hands. And just before dawn, our scryers confirmed it. Tyrion has fallen, your majesty. The city was overrun before reinforcements could be dispatched. We believe the entire garrison has been wiped out or taken. Silence settles like a shroud. Rewalt's face twists, his jaw clenched. The sound of his knuckles cracking as he grips the edge of the table breaks the quiet. Destroyed in a single night, he mutters, barely louder than a whisper. Over 5,000 soldiers, and it still fell. He turns his head slowly, his gaze falling on the man standing just beside him. Marshal Tesvin, Rewalt says, his voice sharp with restrained fury. Any word on Marshal Zinnov? Or my son? Tesvin, normally composed, unshakable, lowers his head. His armor is still dusted with ash from last night's failed mobilization. No, your majesty, Tesvin says quietly. There's been no contact from Marshal Zinnov's command. Ashlight City is also in enemy hands. Tesvin hesitates, just for a moment. Then he answers. The last confirmed report, sire, was that His Highness Asdri encountered a Tier 6 entity in the capital of Ordea. He fought it directly to hold the line. He swallows. He suffered grave injuries. The surviving healers said his condition remains unknown. The room falls into a terrible silence. King Rewalt lowers his head, eyes shadowed beneath his golden crown. For a moment, the king looks not like a ruler, but a father, stricken by regret. I shouldn't have let him go to Ordea, he murmurs, his voice thick. I should have kept him here. It's my fault. I sent him into the jaws of death. Tesvin remains silent, respectful. The weight of the king's guilt is heavy, and there are no words that can lift it. Then Rewalt straightens in his seat. His expression hardens. We can't lose another city, he says firmly. Gather every soldier we have left. I don't care if they're stationed along the borders or guarding merchant routes. Pull them back. I want a force assembled now. Tesvin nods immediately. As you wish, your majesty. Rewalt gestures to a nearby servant, who carries a long, ornate box bound in enchanted steel and crimson leather. The servant steps forward and kneels, presenting the box to Tesvin. Rewalt places a hand on the lid. Take this. Tesvin's brows knit. Sire. Rewalt opens the box with a quiet click. Inside lies a magnificent weapon, long and wrapped in golden bindings, pulsing with a dormant power. Arcane etchings glow faintly along the blade's edge, humming with barely contained force. It's the kingdom's treasure, Rewalt says solemnly. A Tier 6 weapon, Lion's Fang. Tesvin stares at it in silence, awe and pressure settling into his chest. You won't be able to draw out its full strength, Rewalt admits. Not yet, but even so, it should be enough to face a peak Tier 5. Tesvin's jaw tightens. He bows low. I will not disappoint you, your majesty. Rewalt adds, take the Golden Lion Legion with you. Tesvin's head snaps up, eyes wide. The Golden Lion? Are you certain, sire? Rewalt nods without hesitation. They're the best we have. 2,000 soldiers, every one of them Tier 4. If we're going to strike back, it has to be with our sharpest blade. Tesvin draws a slow breath, then gives a deep, resolute nod. I'll lead them, sire. We'll hold the line. No more cities will fall. Asdri's eyes flutter, then slowly open, cloudy at first, unfocused. The tent is dim, lit by soft enchantments that float like fireflies. The scent of herbs and blood fills the air. Valia gasps. He's awake. Valia nearly collapses in relief. Her hands tremble as golden light fades from her palms. She's been kneeling by Asdri's side the entire night, her magic flowing non-stop, her face drawn and pale. Oh gods! She whispers, blinking hard. You idiot. You absolute idiot. Asdri blinks slowly, voice a rasp. Valia. I'm sorry. Around them, the others begin to stir. Ingra is sitting against the wall, arm wrapped in frost bandages. Pike's covered in bruises, legs propped up on a broken chair. Famir, quiet as ever, just leans against the window frame, relief softening his usually sharp expression. Looks like our gamble worked, Pike mutters with a crooked smile. You're too stubborn to die, huh? Asdri tries to laugh, only to groan, wincing. Valia immediately presses a glowing hand to his ribs. Hey, easy. You burned out almost everything. Your core, your channels. Even your bones are cracked in 3 places. Worth it, he mutters. Ingra scoffs gently, wiping a tear from the corner of her eye. Says the man who screamed like a banshee halfway through casting. Famer's voice is low, but steady. You did it. That thing's gone. And the city still stands. Pike leans back with a satisfied grunt, his arms behind his head. This is good news. If we tell the folks back on Weldia continent, they probably won't even believe us. Oh yeah, we erased a tier 6 monster with a combo spell. Ha! They'd think we become crazy. Ingra chuckles, brushing a lock of hair from her face. It's thanks to that old man giving us the link skill. What was his name again? Asdri shifts slightly, grimacing. Master Elstak. You're right. I never imagined the link skill could go that far. We barely scratched the surface during training. He pauses, eyes thoughtful. We should thank him when we get back to Weldia. I think this is the first time anyone's pushed a link skill to its absolute limit. We always used it for defense, Ingra adds. Or simple support magic. Famir nods. But channeling multiple tier 5 skills into one body? That's something else entirely. Valia crosses her arms, brow furrowed, and looked at Asdri. And nearly killed you. Her voice is sharp, but there's a tremor in it. She doesn't hide how scared she was. We shouldn't use that technique unless we have no other choice, she says. It's too dangerous. Asdri lets out a breath. I know. I don't plan on feeling that kind of pain again. He glances toward Pike, a tired smirk forming. Maybe it's your turn next time. Pike raises both hands. Whoa, no thanks. My bones like being intact. You're the chosen one or whatever, not me. Everyone laughs. Tired, aching, but genuine. The kind of laughter that comes only after survival. Suddenly, the tent flap is pulled open with urgency, letting in a gust of wind and the smell of rain-soaked earth. Marshal Zinov steps inside, his armor scratched and his cloak damp from travel. His stern expression softens the moment his eyes land on Asdri. Your Highness, he says, voice low with relief. I'm glad you're awake. Asdri manages a small smile. Uncle, you know me. I'm not that easy to kill. Zinov chuckles once, but it doesn't reach his eyes. No, you're not. But you scared us all. He kneels briefly beside the bed, placing a hand on Asdri's shoulder. Then he rises with a sigh. I wish I could stay, but I can't. I need to return to the capital immediately. Asdri's brow furrows. What happened? Zinov's face hardens. Tyrion fell last night. The air in the tent freezes. All the warmth, all the lightheartedness evaporates. Valia's hand stills over Asdri's ribs. Pike straightens in his seat. Ingra's eyes go wide, lips parted in disbelief. Famir says nothing but his hand. What? Asdri asks, voice hoarse. Tyrion fell? Zinov nods grimly. It was fast. Our outer wards went dark just before midnight. By dawn, the city was overrun. We lost contact with the command post, the towers, even the Eastern Watch. It's gone. Asdri slowly pushes himself up despite Valia's protests, his teeth clenched against the pain. How many? Zinov doesn't answer at first. His jaw works, and for a moment the marshal looks older than ever. Too many, he finally says. Over 5,000 stationed there. We're not sure how many made it out. Maybe a few hundred at most. Silence follows. A silence that presses on every chest. Zinov exhales slowly, then continues, his voice low and grave. His Majesty has decided to go all out. He's mobilizing everything we have to halt the enemy's advance. No more delays. No more waiting. He'll meet them head-on before they reach the heartlands. Asdri's hands clench over the blanket. His breathing is uneven, but his gaze sharpens. Please be careful. We still don't know if they have another Tier 6 on their side. Zinev offers a faint smile, one that doesn't quite reach his tired eyes. Don't worry, Your Highness. The Valgros kingdom isn't something a single Tier 6 can destroy. He steps back, adjusting the grip on his sword belt. Even monsters bleed, and if they don't, we'll teach them how. Asdri's voice softens, heavy with gratitude. Thank you, Uncle. Zinev meets his gaze for a long moment. Then he nods. Get well, Asdri. You're still needed. And when you're ready, come find us. With that, he turns, his cloak snapping behind him as he strides out into the rain-soaked morning. The tent is quiet once more. Chapter 154. Noctara City, Smithing Building. The tent is quiet once more, but the weight of Zinev's words lingers. Asdri slowly exhales, eyes drifting toward the flickering lantern above. Then, a sudden thought crosses his mind. His expression tightens. Any news about Alex? He asks. The question hangs in the air. Zinev pauses near the flap, half-turned. His brows knit. I was about to ask you the same thing. Pike sits up straighter, running a hand through his mess of hair. After the event, he just disappeared. The person we tasked to keep an eye on him? Vanished too. Ingra frowns. Wait, what? Disappeared? You mean literally no trace? Asdri's fingers curl into the blanket. His voice is low but sure. My intuition is always right. That guy, he's not just a Tier 4. Ingra tilts her head, eyeing him. Is that your sixth sense acting up again? Asdri nods slowly. Yeah. It's the same feeling I get when I stand in front of someone way stronger than me. That kind of pressure. The kind you don't forget. And dangerous, too. Like a blade held just out of sight. Valia glances toward the flap where Zinev had disappeared. So you're saying, we've had someone like that right under our noses this whole time? Famir, still silent by the window, speaks at last. Maybe he didn't want to be noticed. Maybe he let us see just enough to stay off the radar. Pike mutters. Well, he sure succeeded. If he's really hiding that kind of power, then we're lucky he's not on the enemy's side. Asdri shifts slightly, wincing as he speaks. That's why I'm trying my best to befriend him. Keep him close, learn who he really is, and at the same time, keep an eye on him. Valia raises a brow, arms still crossed. So what? You want to recruit him? If possible, Asdri says, then glances at her. But if not, at least I'll know which way he leans when things get worse. Valia's gaze lingers. Then she sighs, her voice low. It's still weird though, don't you think? He disappears right when the city's in chaos? Like he knew what was coming. Ingra frowns. Or didn't want to get involved. Asdri leans back against the pillow, his breath uneven. Okay, he says, voice quieter now. Let's not talk about Alex anymore. Everyone turns toward him. He closes his eyes for a beat, then opens them again. He's not here, and we've got enough on our plates as it is. We all need to heal physically and mentally, starting with me. Valia nods, stepping back toward him, her hands already glowing again. Finally, something that makes sense. Pike exhales through his nose. Yeah, good call. I think my shoulder's still dislocated. Alex pushes open the heavy stone doors of the smithing building, the low hum of enchantments embedded in the walls resonating faintly in his ears. The interior is massive, cavernous, its ceiling arched with dark steel support beams that gleam under magical lighting. Rows of advanced forges, smelting chambers, crystal grinders, and gear molds line the walls, most of them idle, untouched, or half disassembled. The air is thick with the smell of molten or an arcane residue. Despite the cutting-edge equipment, most of the workstations are empty. The moment Alex steps inside, a large, horned figure hurries over, soot and sparks still clinging to his apron. It's Gracker, a hulking Mulgar, a forge-born monster species with rocky skin, obsidian claws, and heat-resistant lungs. The only blacksmith under Alex who can forge Tier 4 gear. And the one Alex made to lead the blacksmiths right now. Lord Alex. Gracker booms, bowing slightly, his deep voice echoing through the hall. You grace the forge with your presence. Alex gives a small nod. Gracker, how's progress? Gracker scratches the side of his jaw, glancing toward the rows of unused stations. Slow. The gear is here, but we don't know how to use half of it. These machines, they're not like the ones we're familiar with. Alex steps deeper into the forge, his boots clicking against blackened stone. The temperature here is high, even without the forges running full force, but it doesn't bother him. He moves with calm purpose, his sharp eyes scanning the layout, noting which stations are operational and which are clearly untouched. I figured as much, he says, folding his arms as he stops near an inactive runic crucible. Its surface is pristine, untouched. This forge was meant for smiths with technical knowledge far beyond what you know. Gracker grunts, his clawed hands resting on his hips. I've been training the younger ones on the basics, but even I don't understand half the functions. These glyphs. He gestures toward a dormant gear engraver glowing faintly with dormant runes. They shift and change depending on material input. That's not normal smithing. Gracker's frown deepens as he watches Alex. We've never seen anything like it before. It's all advanced tech. Even if we could figure out how to use it, I'm not sure if our knowledge would be enough to handle it. Alex steps closer to the runic crucible, gently running his fingers across the cool surface. These machines are far beyond just brute force, he says. They require a mastery of both magical and physical crafting that only the highest-tier smiths can comprehend. You don't have to worry about them for now. Gracker tilts his head, curious. Then, what should we do? You need to focus on improving your own smithing first. Alex replies, his voice calm and steady. Once you and your team reach a higher level of proficiency, you'll understand how to use these machines. Right now, the most important thing is to ensure your basics are solid. Build up your skills. Gracker nods thoughtfully, absorbing Alex's words. Thank you, Your Majesty. With the resources and techniques you've given us, we are improving very quickly. I can feel the difference already. Alex smiles slightly, the corners of his mouth lifting. That's good to hear, because for my kingdom to grow, I need capable people like you and everyone here. The future depends on all of you. Gracker's eyes gleam with determination. We won't let you down. We'll keep pushing forward, learning everything we can. You've given us the tools. Now it's up to us to master them. Alex gives a slow nod, his gaze unwavering. I have no doubt you will. Alex turns slightly, eyes scanning another section of the forge where a group of salamanders, small, fire-infused beastkin with molten red skin and ember eyes, work in quiet coordination, their hands moving with natural rhythm and control as they shape metal. What about the salamanders? Alex asks, nodding toward them. Gracker lets out a low rumble, clearly impressed. They're amazing, Your Majesty. There's one in particular, Zorov. I think his name is, he's catching up to me fast. Alex raises a brow. That fast? Gracker says, arms crossing over his broad chest. It's not just natural talent, either. He's hungry to learn. I and my clan. We've been smithing all our lives, raised as slaves in human forges, chained to the craft since we were old enough to lift a hammer. But these salamanders? They're closing the gap like it's nothing. He looks over at the group, admiration clear in his voice. They don't just understand fire, they are fire. It moves with them, bends to their will. I've seen them temper a blade by instinct alone, no tools. Just heat, focus, and their bare hands. It's almost artistic. Alex follows his gaze, watching as Zorov carefully molds a blade's edge using only a pair of heat-shielded tongs and his breath. Faint flames dancing from his mouth, keeping the metal at the perfect glow. As Alex walks further down the forge aisle, his gaze lingers on a table stacked with failed prototypes, warped blades, cracked cores, and a few broken hilts, each one showing signs of magic rejection or destabilization. He stops beside one and picks up a shattered gauntlet embedded with fragmented runes. The mana lines are burnt out like they overloaded mid-process. What about the technique of fusing skills into equipment? Alex asks, turning the gauntlet over in his hand. Have you had any success yet? Gracker exhales sharply, the sound rough like grinding stone. I've tried everything, Your Majesty. Followed the forging instructions you gave me step by step. Down to the timing, the heat levels, the binding glyphs. But every single attempt, it ends in failure. He gestures toward the scrap pile with a frustrated grunt. Sometimes the item outright rejects the skill. Other times it fuses halfway, just enough to make the whole thing unstable. One pulse of mana, and boom. Feedback surge. Dangerous stuff. Alex studies the gauntlet for a moment longer, then places it back down with care. What about the mana anchors? Did you try layering them with dual-threaded glyphs before applying the skill core? Gracker nods. I did. Even tried interweaving the glyphs with mana veins, just like in your notes. But it's like the skills themselves refuse to settle inside the gear, like they're alive and fighting back. There's a brief silence between them, the distant clink of hammers echoing through the massive forge. Skill fusion isn't something that should be possible with brute methods, Alex murmurs half to himself. It's not just about binding magic to metal. It's about synchronization, will, purpose, alignment. Gracker tilts his head. You mean the equipment and the skill need to agree with each other? In a way, yes, Alex replies, his tone thoughtful. The item has to be prepared to accept a skill, and the skill has to be channeled, not forced. There's a reason only a handful of blacksmiths in the world ever managed it. Chapter 155. Obsidian Pendant. Alex continues his inspection of the forge, his gaze sharp and discerning. He walks past rows of workstations, noting the progress and challenges faced by his blacksmiths. His attention is drawn to a young salamander, Zorov. Approaching Zorov, Alex observes the young blacksmith's technique. Zorov, engrossed in his work, senses the presence and looks up, his eyes widening in surprise. Your control over the flame is impressive, Zorov. Alex remarks, his tone measured yet appreciative. Zorov's face lights up with pride. Thank you, Your Majesty. I've been practicing, trying to master the techniques Gracker taught us. Alex nods. Your dedication is evident. Continue honing your skills. Your potential is significant. Zorov bows respectfully, his enthusiasm palpable. I won't let you down, my lord. Satisfied with the progress, Alex turns and makes his way back to the palace. Alex strides through the grand corridors of the palace, the rhythmic echo of his boots a familiar cadence against the polished stone floors. The air is cooler here, a stark contrast to the forge's intense heat. He ascends the spiral staircase leading to his working chambers, the weight of leadership pressing upon his shoulders. Upon entering his working chamber, the scent of parchment and ink greets him. Sunlight filters through the tall windows, casting a warm glow over the room. On his desk, a stack of reports awaits, neatly arranged by his aides. He approaches, his eyes scanning the topmost document. Breaking the seal, he unfolds the report, his gaze sharpening as he reads. The war with Ordea progresses. Our forces continue their advance, meeting minimal resistance. The Bonepiercer's legion from Varkas has ceased its movements. No reinforcements have been requested. Alex's brow furrows slightly, a contemplative expression settling on his face. He sets the report down, leaning back in his chair, fingers steepled beneath his chin. So, Varkas has chosen to withdraw its support from Ordea. He muses aloud, the words hanging in the quiet room. This development simplifies our strategy. Without their aid, Ordea stands vulnerable. He rises, moving to the window, gazing out over the city below. The sun casts long shadows, signaling the approach of evening. A sense of resolve settles over him. Prepare the next phase of our campaign, he instructs, his voice firm. With Varkas stepping back, we must seize this opportunity to bring Ordea to its knees. Turning from the window, Alex returns to his desk, penning directives with swift precision. The path ahead is clearer now, and he intends to lead his kingdom to victory. In the heart of the recently conquered city, the command room is dimly lit, its walls adorned with maps and tactical charts. General Varkas stands at the head of the table. Seated around him are the commanders: Sorin, Nasara, Thurn, and Veltha. Varkas clears his throat, his voice deep and resonant. I have received orders from His Majesty. He wants us to end it all. Sorin leans forward. General, does that mean we're to attack Ordea's capital? Varkas nods solemnly. Yes, the time has come to strike at the heart of Ordea. Nasara, whose chitinous limbs glint in the dim light, interjects. But can we do it? Ordea has a heritage spanning thousands of years. Surely they have hidden defenses. Varkas offers a reassuring smile. Do not worry. His Majesty has provided me with specialized items for various scenarios. We are prepared. Sorin's eyes sparkle with admiration. As expected of His Majesty, he has calculated every possible outcome. Varkas concludes, prepare your units. We move at dawn. The morning sun casts a golden hue over the spires of Ordea's capital, its light filtering through the grand windows of the royal palace. Queen Seraphina stands on a marble balcony overlooking the city, her posture regal yet contemplative. The streets below bustle with activity, but a palpable tension hangs in the air. Behind her, Medrin awaits her command. His armor gleams softly in the sunlight, but his expression is shadowed by concern. Medrin, Seraphina begins, her voice steady. What do you make of Valgros's silence? They leave us isolated while the enemy encroaches upon us slowly. Medrin steps forward, his tone measured. Your Majesty, if the roles were reversed, would we act differently? In the face of overwhelming odds, alliances often falter. A soft chuckle escapes Seraphina's lips. You're right. It's a bitter truth, but one we must accept. Medrin observes the queen, recalling the skepticism that surrounded her ascension. As the first woman to rule Ordea, many predicted the kingdom's decline. Yet under her leadership, prosperity flourished. His respect for her has only deepened over time. Turning to face him, Seraphina's eyes blaze with determination. We will not surrender. We will fight to the last. Will you stand with me, Medrin? Without hesitation, Medrin kneels, his voice resolute. With my life, Your Majesty. The queen places a hand on his shoulder, a silent vow passing between them. Together, they will face whatever challenges lie ahead, unwavering in their commitment to Ordea. At noon, the horizon darkens as General Varkas's formidable army emerges. A vast sea of over 100,000 monster soldiers and 8,000 human troops. Leading this force are Sorin, Nasara, Thurn, and Veltha, each commanding their specialized units. The defenders of Ordea, numbering 70,000, watch with growing unease as the enemy's strength appears undiminished, even augmented. From the battlements, a captain surveys the approaching horde. By the gods, he mutters. Their numbers have swelled. This isn't just a siege. It's an overwhelming force. Beside him, a lieutenant tightens her grip on her spear. We expected them to be weakened, she says, her voice tense. Instead, they've brought reinforcements. In the command tower, Queen Seraphina stands resolute, her gaze fixed on the encroaching army. Medrin approaches, concern etched on his face. Your Majesty, their numbers are vast. Our scouts report no signs of fatigue or depletion among their ranks. Seraphina turns to him, her expression unwavering. Then we must be the wall that holds firm, she declares. Ordea's spirit is not measured by numbers but by our resolve. Medrin bows deeply. The barrier envelopes the capital, shimmering with an ethereal glow as it stretches over the city. Medrin's eyes narrow, focusing on the unfamiliar weapon among the enemy ranks. A massive cannon pulsating with arcane energy. Above, General Varkas floats effortlessly, his voice booming across the battlefield. Humans, as is my custom before an assault, I offer you a choice. Surrender. A tense silence falls over the defenders. Medrin steps forward, his voice cutting through the stillness. We will not yield. With a commanding gesture, Varkas signals the attack. The cannon at the rear discharges, unleashing a concentrated beam of raw magical force. The beam strikes the barrier with a deafening roar, and the shield shatters like glass under a hammer. The defenders gasp in horror. Medrin's jaw clenches. He had believed the barrier impervious, capable of withstanding multiple Tier 5 spells. Yet, it crumbles effortlessly. Mages rush to the front lines, their hands trembling as they channel mana stones into the barrier's matrix. Energy crackles in the air as they work frantically to restore the shield, but the damage is substantial. The once impenetrable defense now flickers, unstable and uncertain. Medrin's gaze hardens. "Prepare for the worst," he mutters, steeling himself for the battle to come. The battle erupts with a deafening roar as Nasara's shield-wielding units charge forward, their massive shields raised like walls of iron. The ground trembles beneath their synchronized steps, a testament to their discipline and unity. Each shield is not merely a defensive tool but a weapon of destruction, capable of crushing foes with brutal efficiency. The cannon fires again, its colossal barrel glowing with arcane energy. A blinding beam of magical force erupts from the cannon, striking the city's gate with a thunderous impact. The reinforced gates, once thought impregnable, splinter and crumble under the relentless assault. Debris rains down as the once mighty barrier falls, leaving the city vulnerable. Medrin watches in horror as the gate collapses. His heart sinks. The city's defenses are failing. He turns to the mages at his side, urgency in his voice. "We need to reinforce the barrier now. Channel all available mana into it." The mages nod, fear evident in their eyes as they begin the arduous task of rebuilding the shield. Their hands tremble as they draw upon mana stones, their energy flickering like dying embers. The barrier shimmers weakly, a mere shadow of its former strength. Meanwhile, Nasara's forces hold the front line. The ground becomes chaotic as shields clash and spells and arrows rain down. Nasara herself leads the charge, her arachnid limbs moving with terrifying speed and precision. "Push forward!" Her units follow her command without hesitation, their shields forming an impenetrable wall as they advance. Despite the human soldiers' efforts, the cannon continues its relentless barrage. Another blast shakes the ground as the cannon fires again, this time targeting the city's walls. The impact sends shockwaves through the defenders, knocking several off their feet. The once sturdy walls begin to crack and crumble under the sustained assault. Queen Seraphina stands atop the command tower, her eyes fixed on the shattered barrier and the crumbling gates of Ordea. The once impervious defenses now lie in ruins, and the enemy's relentless assault sends shockwaves through the city. Her heart pounds, disbelief etched across her face. A royal guard rushes to her side, urgency in his voice. "Your Majesty, it's no longer safe here. We must relocate to the inner sanctum immediately." Seraphina's gaze remains fixed on the devastation below. She slowly reaches into her pocket and retrieves a small, intricately carved obsidian pendant. Its surface pulses with a faint, ethereal glow. Chapter 156. The Sorrow's End. She holds the pendant aloft, her voice rising in a resonant chant that echoes across the battlefield. "By the ancient covenant of Ordea, I call upon the sacred light. Let the bonds of our ancestors awaken and shield us from despair." The pendant begins to levitate, spinning rapidly as beams of light shoot out in all directions. A brilliant magic circle materializes above the city, its intricate patterns glowing with golden energy. The circle expands, encompassing the entire city in a protective aura. A surge of power washes over the defenders. Wounded soldiers feel their strength returning, their fatigue melting away. Mages, previously drained, find their mana reserves replenished, their spells casting with renewed vigor. Archers and swordsmen alike feel lighter, faster, more precise. On the front lines, Medrin watches in awe as the tide begins to turn. A nearby mage, eyes wide with wonder, responds, "It's the blessing of Ordea. The queen has awakened the city's ancient magic." Emboldened, the defenders rally. With renewed strength, they push back against the invading forces, their morale soaring. The once dim hope of victory now burns brightly in their hearts. Above it all, Queen Seraphina stands resolute, her eyes reflecting the golden glow of the magic circle. Her voice carries across the battlefield. Ordea will not fall. We stand united, our spirits unbroken. Fight, my people, for our home, for our future. General Varkas hovers above the battlefield. His crimson eyes gleam with amusement as he observes the defenders of Ordea rallying with newfound vigor. The radiant magic circle above the city bathes the battlefield in golden light, invigorating the human forces. Interesting, Varkas murmurs, a smirk playing on his lips. This skill already as strong as Tier 6 skill. This should make things more entertaining. He turns his gaze to the front lines, where Nasara's shield-bearing units press forward relentlessly. Their massive shields, now glowing with a faint aura, absorb and deflect the enhanced attacks from the Ordian soldiers. Come on, boys, Nasara commands, her voice cutting through the din of battle. Reflect Thier attacks. Soren stands atop a jagged outcrop, her assassin's garb fluttering in the wind. She surveys the renewed vigor of the human forces with narrowed eyes. With a swift motion, she activates a communication device, a sleek obsidian shard pulsing with dark energy. Commanders! Soren's voice cuts through the static, calm yet commanding. Initiate the Finger of the Death God's skill. We'll shatter their barrier in a single strike. A brief pause follows, then acknowledgements crackle through the device. Acknowledged. Thurn's gravelly voice responds. Understood. Veltha's tone is sharp and eager. Ready? Nasara's voice is laced with anticipation. Across the battlefield, the monstrous units begin to converge. Soren's warrior soldiers, Thurn's poison-infused beasts, Veltha's swift monstrosities, and Nasara's shield-bearing units all move with synchronized precision. Their individual auras, once distinct, begin to merge, forming a swirling vortex of dark energy above them. The sky darkens as the combined aura coalesces into a colossal, ethereal finger pointing directly at Ordea's barrier. The air grows thick with oppressive energy, and a low hum resonates across the battlefield. From the command tower, Queen Seraphina watches in horror. What sorcery is this? She whispers. Medrin, standing beside her, grips his sword tightly. Everyone, be ready, he shouts to the defenders. With a deafening roar, the finger of the death god descends upon the barrier. The protective shield shatters instantly, fragments of magical energy scattering like glass. The force of the blast sends shockwaves through the city, toppling structures and throwing soldiers off their feet. As the dust settles, Soren's voice echoes once more through the communication device. Advance. Leave none standing. The battlefield erupts into chaos as the monster's horde surges forward, their war cries blending into a cacophony of fury. The defenders of Ordea, invigorated by the blessing of Ordea, stand their ground, their resolve unshaken. The clash is immediate and brutal. Nasara's shield-bearing monsters lead the charge, their massive forms crashing into the front lines like battering rams. Their shields absorb and deflect the enhanced attacks from the Ordian soldiers. Behind them, Thurn's poison-infused monsters slither and lurch, their venomous fangs seeking any opening in the human defenses. Veltha's swift monstrosities dart through the chaos, their movements a blur as they exploit gaps in the lines, sowing confusion and panic. Soren's warrior soldiers, disciplined and relentless, press the attack with their skills, their blades flashing in the sunlight. The defenders respond with equal ferocity. Archers release volleys of arrows, mages unleash torrents of fire and ice, and swordsmen meet the onslaught head-on. The air is thick with the scent of blood and smoke, the ground slick with the fallen. Amidst the turmoil, Queen Seraphina stands atop the command tower, her voice carrying across the battlefield. Hold the line. For Ordea. Her words galvanize the defenders, their spirits bolstered by her unwavering presence. They fight not just for survival, but for their home, their families, their future. The battlefield is a maelstrom of chaos and fury. Amidst the clamor, Varkas, his lycanthropic form towering and menacing, floats closer to the command tower where Medrin stands. Human, Varkas growls, his voice a guttural snarl. Don't you feel bored just watching the battle? Medrin meets his gaze, eyes blazing with determination. Of course I am bored, he retorts, gripping his flaming sword tightly. I will kill you and end this battle right away. With a roar, Varkas lunges forward, claws extended. Medrin responds instantly, invoking his Tier 4 fire skill. Inferno Blade. His sword erupts in flames, the heat distorting the air around it. Their clash is explosive. Varkas's claws meet Medrin's flaming blade, sparks and embers flying. The force of their collision sends shockwaves through the battlefield. Varkas snarls, his claws slashing in rapid succession. Medrin parries deftly, each block sending bursts of flame into the air. He counters with a sweeping arc of his sword, flames trailing in its wake. Varkas leaps back, then charges again with a feral howl. Medrin braces himself, channeling his energy. Flame Wall. A barrier of fire erupts between them, forcing Varkas to halt his advance. Undeterred, Varkas circles around, seeking an opening. Medrin watches him closely, sweat mingling with soot on his brow. Not bad, human, Varkas admits, a twisted grin on his face. With a guttural roar, Varkas activates his Tier 4 skill, Savage Onslaught. His form blurs as he lunges at Medrin with a flurry of claw strikes, each blow carrying the weight of his monstrous strength. Medrin meets the assault head-on, his Tier 4 skill, igniting his sword in blazing flames. He parries and counters, each clash sending sparks and embers flying. Seizing an opening, Medrin channels his energy into a powerful thrust, his sword engulfed in fire. The attack connects, sending Varkas skidding backward. Varkas snarls, blood trickling from a wound. I guess unless I go all out, I won't be able to defeat you, he concedes. He taps into his Tier 5 bloodline skill. A crimson aura envelopes him, his muscles bulging as his power surges. His eyes glow with a feral light. Now, feel the true might of a lycanthrope, Varkas declares. He follows up with his ordinary Tier 5 skill, Predator's Fury, further enhancing his speed and strength. In a blur, he's upon Medrin, launching a relentless barrage of attacks. Medrin struggles to keep up, his armor absorbing the brunt of the blows. He grits his teeth, focusing his energy. I won't let you win, he vows. With a surge of power, he activates his strongest Tier 5 skill, Phoenix Rebirth. Flames engulf him, healing his wounds and boosting his abilities. He meets Varkas's assault with renewed vigor, their battle lighting up the battlefield. The clash of fire and fury continues, each warrior pushing the other to their limits. Queen Seraphina stands atop the command tower, her gaze fixed on the battlefield below. Despite the blessing of Ordea empowering her soldiers, the tide of battle remains uncertain. She murmurs to herself, even with the buff skill, my soldiers are still struggling. Reaching into her robes, she retrieves a communication crystal, its surface shimmering with arcane energy. She speaks into it, her voice steady but urgent. Commander, deploy the adventurers now. It's time for the surprise attack. A moment of static follows, then a voice crackles through, strained and panicked. Your Majesty, we are under attack. 1,000 assassins have ambushed us from behind. They're overwhelming us. Seraphina's eyes widen in shock. The shadows of the monsters, elite units known for their stealth and lethality, were supposed to be elsewhere. She clenches her fists, the crystal trembling in her grasp. Hold your ground, Commander. Reinforcements will be dispatched immediately, she commands, her voice resolute. Turning to her aides, she orders, send a detachment to support the adventurers. We cannot afford to lose them. As the aides rush to carry out her orders, Seraphina gazes out over the battlefield, the weight of the unfolding chaos pressing heavily upon her. Her mind drifts to the ornate box secured within the inner sanctum of the tower. Inside lies an artifact of immense power, a relic whose origin she doesn't know, nor how the first king of Ordea came to possess it. She has always known of its existence, a last resort meant only for the direst of circumstances. She whispers to herself, "The sorrow's end," a fitting name. The artifact's power is unparalleled, capable of annihilating entire armies with a single invocation. But its reach is indiscriminate. If unleashed, it would not only obliterate the enemy but also her own forces, the city, and perhaps even the land itself. Chapter 157. The End of Ordea Kingdom. As the battle rages on, the defenders' lines begin to falter. The monsters press their advantage, their relentless assault driving the defenders back. The air is thick with the scent of blood and smoke, the ground slick with the fallen. Seraphina's hand hovers over the communication crystal. She hesitates, torn between her duty to protect her people and the devastating consequences of using the artifact. "Your Majesty," an old mage calls out, urgency in his voice. "The eastern wall has been breached. We can't hold them much longer." Seraphina's eyes narrow, resolve hardening. She grips the crystal tightly, her voice steady. "Prepare the artifact," she commands. "But do not activate it until I give the order." The old mage nods, rushing to carry out her command. Seraphina turns back to the battlefield, her heart heavy with the weight of the decision before her. "May the gods forgive me," she whispers. The battlefield trembles beneath the fury of clashing titans. Medrin, his armor scorched and battered, stands firm, his flaming sword gripped tightly. Across from him, Varkas, now fully transformed into his monstrous lycanthropic form, grins with savage delight. "Come, human, show me your strongest. I'll take it head on, and then I'll tear you apart." Medrin's eyes narrow, determination etched into every line of his face. He raises his sword high, the flames intensifying, swirling around him like a fiery tempest. "Very well," Medrin replies, his voice steady. He channels his remaining energy, invoking his ultimate Tier 5 skill, Solar Ascension. A radiant aura envelopes him, the flames around his sword transforming into a brilliant, golden light. The ground beneath him cracks, unable to withstand the sheer force of his power. Varkas's grin widens, his claws flexing in anticipation. With a roar, Medrin charges, his sword blazing with solar energy. He strikes with precision and fury, each blow a testament to his unyielding spirit. Varkas meets him head-on, their clash sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The two warriors exchange blows, their movements a blur. Medrin's Solar Ascension skill empowers him, his attacks searing through the air with intensity. Varkas counters with feral strength, his claws rending the earth as he fights with ferocity. As the battle reaches its climax, Varkas' blood trickling from a wound. "Now, feel the true might of a lycanthrope," Varkas declares. He follows up with his Tier 5 skill, Moonlit Cataclysm, further enhancing his speed and strength. In a blur, he's upon Medrin, launching a relentless barrage of attacks. Medrin struggles to keep up, his armor absorbing the brunt of the blows. He grits his teeth, focusing his energy. But Varkas has another plan. He taps into another Tier 5 bloodline skill, Lunar Devastation. A silver aura envelopes him, his form becoming a blur as he unleashes a devastating flurry of attacks. Medrin tries to defend, but the onslaught is too much. Varkas's claws pierce through his armor, tearing into his flesh. With a final, savage blow, Varkas drives his claws into Medrin's chest, ending the battle. Medrin falls to the ground, his sword slipping from his grasp. Varkas stands over him, victorious. The battlefield falls silent, the defenders of Ordea stunned by the loss of their marshal. Varkas lets out a triumphant roar, signaling the monster's victory. From the command tower, Queen Seraphina watches in horror. She knows that the time has come to make a choice. She turns to the old mage. "Activate the artifact," she commands. Suddenly, a deafening hum fills the air. The clouds above the city swirl violently, parting to reveal a colossal being descending from the heavens. It has immense white wings that stretch across the sky, and in its hands, it holds a floating cube pulsating with energy. The soldiers and monsters alike pause, their gazes drawn upward in awe and terror. The old mage, standing beside Queen Seraphina, trembles as he recognizes the entity. "No," he whispers, his voice quivering. "I've read about this in the ancient texts. It's the ultimate trump card of the kingdom, sorrow's end. But its power, it will annihilate the city." He turns to where Seraphina is located, desperation in his eyes. "Your Majesty, do you intend to destroy the city and us all just to eliminate the enemy?" Seraphina's eyes are fixed on the battlefield, where Medrin's lifeless body lies. Her heart is heavy with grief, her mind clouded with rage. She clenches her fists, her voice cold and resolute. "Make the barrier cover only half of the city," she commands. The old mage hesitates, horror etched on his face. "Your Majesty, doing so will strengthen the barrier, yes, but all our soldiers outside its protection will be caught in the blast." Seraphina turns to him, her gaze unwavering. "I know, but as long as our citizens survive, we can rebuild. Even if it means sacrificing our soldiers, we must protect the future of Ordea." She raises the communication crystal to her lips, her voice echoing across the battlefield. "All units, retreat immediately. Use your speed to escape the blast radius." This is not a request. It's an order. The soldiers, though shocked, obey without question. They begin to fall back. The old mage, tears streaming down his face, begins the incantation to adjust the barrier. As the barrier shifts, covering only half of the city, the colossal being in the sky raises the cube high above its head. The energy within it intensifies, casting a blinding light over the land. The final act of desperation is about to unfold, a sacrifice made to ensure the survival of a kingdom. As the radiant being in the sky prepares to unleash its devastating attack, Varkas senses the impending doom. The air thickens with tension, and a blinding light gathers around the cube held by the celestial entity. The ground trembles beneath the weight of the impending catastrophe. Varkas, standing amidst the chaos, feels a chill run down his spine. He gazes upward, eyes narrowing as he assesses the threat. "If that attack hits us," he mutters, voice low and grave, "there will be no one left to tell the tale." Reaching into a pouch at his side, Varkas retrieves a small, ornate shield, an item bestowed upon him by his sovereign. Its surface shimmers with ancient runes, pulsating with latent energy. With a swift motion, he tosses it into the air. The shield ascends, hovering above the city, expanding rapidly into a vast, translucent barrier. The celestial being releases the energy stored within the cube. A colossal beam of light descends, illuminating the battlefield with blinding intensity. The beam strikes the shield conjured by Varkas's item. A thunderous impact resonates, shaking the very foundations of the city. The shield holds, absorbing the brunt of the attack. Waves of energy ripple across its surface, distorting the air and sending shockwaves through the surroundings. The ground quakes and debris is hurled into the air. Varkas braces himself, muscles tensed, as he endures the aftermath of the clash. Dust and smoke envelop the area, obscuring vision. As the light dissipates, the shield remains intact, though visibly strained, its glow flickering. The battlefield falls silent once more, the immediate threat neutralized. The radiant being in the sky begins to dissipate, its form unraveling into streams of light that fade into the heavens. The battlefield, moments ago engulfed in chaos, now lies in stunned silence. Human soldiers, their weapons still raised, stand frozen, eyes wide with disbelief. The monstrous figure of Varkas stands tall amidst the remnants of the clash, his presence commanding attention. Varkas steps forward, his voice resonating across the field. "Humans, do you still wish to fight? After witnessing your queen's willingness to sacrifice you all." The soldiers exchange glances, the weight of his words sinking in. One by one, weapons clatter to the ground, a chorus of surrender echoing through the air. Queen Seraphina, from her vantage point, watches the scene unfold. Her knees give way, and she collapses to the ground, the reality of her failed gambit crashing down upon her. How could this happen? A royal guard rushes to her side, concern etched on his face. Your Majesty, are you all right? Seraphina said. I was prepared to sacrifice everything. And yet, Varka's eyes scanning the horizon. With a powerful leap, he ascends into the air. He soars towards the command tower where Queen Seraphina resides. Inside the tower, Seraphina struggles to her feet, her body trembling from the aftermath of the failed assault. The royal guard, ever vigilant, positions himself between her and the approaching threat, his sword drawn and stance firm. Varka's lands with a thunderous impact, the stone floor cracking beneath his weight. Without hesitation, he swats the guard aside, sending him crashing into the far wall with a sickening crunch. Seraphina meets Varka's gaze, her eyes burning with defiance. What about we stop here now, Queen Seraphina? Varkas growls, his voice a deep rumble. Seraphina straightens, her chin held high. Kill me if you must, she spits. I would rather die than serve your filthy king. Varkas' eyes narrow, his expression darkening. You dare insult my king? He snarls. You have sealed your fate. Seraphina, though trembling, meets his gaze with unwavering defiance. Do it, she says, her voice steady. I will not beg. I will not kneel. Varkas narrows his eyes, a growl rumbling from his throat. Your pride is admirable. With a swift motion, he raises his clawed hand. Seraphina closes her eyes, a single tear escaping down her cheek. Smart history. The claw descends. Moments later, Varkas emerges from the tower, holding Seraphina's severed head aloft. Blood drips from his claws, staining the stone beneath him. Behold! He roars, his voice echoing across the battlefield. The reign of Ordea ends today. Let this be a lesson to all who defy the might of our king. Chapter 158. Gander the Curse Mage. The scent of incense lingers in the air, mixing with the sweet aroma of wine. Silk drapes flutter softly in the dim glow of lanterns, casting golden light across the king's vast private chamber. King Rewalt reclines on a mountain of velvet cushions, his tunic half undone, the glint of sweat on his chest betraying the weight of his recent frustrations. His fingers lazily trace the curve of the woman straddling his lap, one of his favorite concubines, a raven-haired beauty. She leans into him, her lips trailing across his throat, her voice a soft purr. Let me take the burden from your mind, my king, just for a while. His hand tightens around her hip. You always know exactly when I need you, he murmurs, voice low, worn with exhaustion. These damned monsters. Endless reports, council squabbles. Even the wine doesn't taste like it used to. She chuckles, arching her back as her hands slip behind his neck. Then let me be your escape. Her movements are slow and teasing, her eyes fixed on him as she sways gently. The sounds of pleasure and whispered promises fill the chamber, muffled only by the silk canopy above the bed. Rewalt groans, tension melting from his shoulders as he sinks deeper into the moment. For once, the weight of his crown doesn't feel quite so crushing. Then a knock. Sharp. Urgent. The king's brow furrows. Again. Your Majesty. An emergency report. It cannot wait. Comes a voice from the other side of the heavy oak door. Rewalt growls under his breath. Now? The concubine stills on his lap, giving him a worried glance. Shall I send them away? He exhales deeply, his mood souring. No. If someone's knocking here, it's serious. He adjusts his robe and motions for her to step aside. She does, quietly wrapping herself in a silk shawl and vanishing behind a privacy curtain. Enter, Rewalt commands. The doors swing open. A young royal messenger rushes in, breathless, dirt and ash still clinging to his cloak. The boy kneels immediately. Forgive me, Your Majesty. but I was told to bring this directly to you without delay. Rewalt steps down from the dais, tying his robe tighter, a storm already brewing in his eyes. Speak, boy. What is it? The messenger swallows hard. Ordea has fallen, sire. Queen Seraphina is dead. For a moment, the room itself seems to still. Only the distant crackle of the fireplace dares to break the silence. What did you say? He asks, voice low, almost a whisper. The messenger lowers his head further, trembling under the weight of the news. Marshal Medrin was slain in battle. The queen activated their final weapon. But it was nullified. The monsters have taken the capital. Ordea has collapsed, your majesty. Rewalt's lips part slightly as if to speak, but no words come. He stares past the boy, eyes unfocused, chest rising and falling with slow, shallow breaths. Rewalt slowly sinks into a chair by the fire, his face pale as the heat of the moment bleeds out of him. He leans forward, elbows on knees, his fingers steepled against his lips. Silence thickens. In just one day, he murmurs, and Ordea, all gone. The concubine emerges from behind the curtain, shawl clutched to her chest. My king, she whispers, hesitant to approach. Rewalt lifts his head slowly, eyes filled with a rare dread. Do you know what kind of power Seraphina wielded? His voice is raw now, tinged with fear. Ordea had a trump card that even I feared. A divine weapon left from the first king, Sorrow's End. And it was destroyed. Overpowered. He slams his fist onto the armrest. The crack echoes through the chamber. What in the gods' names is that monster? The messenger dares a quiet breath. The report claims he summoned a shield. Something that absorbed the blast. He mutters, more to himself than to the others. Should I send word across the sea? Ask the other continents for aid? The concubine kneels beside him, eyes full of concern. Would they answer, your majesty? A bitter smirk touches Rewalt's lips. They see us as nothing more than a stubborn old mountain kingdom. They'd laugh at our plea, if they answered at all. Silence stretches. Then Rewalt rises to his feet, his robe falling open slightly as he towers over the firelight. I won't beg. His voice is cold steel now. But I won't wait to be next either. Send a raven to the Eastern Watch. I want every scout watching the border. He turns to the messenger. Bring me the head of the court mages. Now. The boy bows and bolts from the room. At Blackfall City, the once proud heart of Ordea, its grand palace now sits under a new banner. Silk banners bearing the sigil of Alex's kingdom hang from towering pillars. The throne chamber is silent, save for the creak of armor and the occasional shallow breath. Alex sits on the high throne, carved from obsidian and veined with crimson light pulsing like a heartbeat. He leans slightly to one side, one hand resting on the armrest, the other draped casually over his leg. His eyes are half-lidded, but sharp with awareness. Before him, kneeling in a line, are Ordea's surviving nobles, dukes, barons, aging uncles of Seraphina. The proud bloodline now bowed and trembling. Some dare not even raise their heads. Fear coils through them like smoke, thick and suffocating. Alex speaks. His voice is soft, but it cuts through the silence like a blade. Raise. The nobles hesitate. Then, slowly, shakily, one by one, they lift their heads and stand, their eyes flicking up to the throne. None dare speak first. Alex studies them in silence for a moment longer, letting the weight of it press down. You call yourselves the blood of Ordea, he says, voice calm but charged. And yet here you are, kneeling before the very man who shattered your walls. A few flinch. One older noble, perhaps Seraphina's uncle, clenches his jaw, his pride warring with fear. Alex's gaze falls on him. Speak. The man clears his throat, struggling to steady himself. We did not fight you, your majesty. We remained in the capital to protect the people. After Queen Seraphina activated the artifact. And failed. Alex finishes, tone even. Silence. The nobles lower their gazes again. But I am not here to waste lives, Alex continues. I am here to build something stronger. And you, his eyes sweep over them, you will serve me now, or you will serve no one. A younger noble, perhaps too naive or too desperate, dares a question. And, what would you have of us, your majesty? Alex smiles faintly, not cruel but cold, resolute. Loyalty. Obedience. Alex's gaze lingers on the nobles a moment longer. Then, with calm finality, he says a single word. Gander. A ripple of unease passes through the nobles as the heavy silence is broken by the soft scrape of metal-tipped claws against polished stone. From the shadows near the side of the throne, a figure emerges. Tall, hunched, draped in layers of tattered black and violet robes stitched with bone fragments and dried sinew. His long limbs move with deliberate, unnatural grace. The flickering lantern light reveals pale, papery skin stretched over a wiry frame, bones pressing visibly beneath. Gander's head is a grotesque mask of patchwork flesh, sewn together with black thread. A rusted bronze circlet floats just above his bald scalp, not touching him, suspended by some unseen force. Where his eyes should be, two small orbs of glowing green mist hover in empty sockets, flickering and pulsing like trapped souls. In his gnarled hand, he clutches a tall staff, its shaft twisted like charred wood, topped by a bleached human skull whose jaw occasionally twitches as if it remembers how to scream. Faint whispers hiss from the skull as Gander moves, in a language no living noble understands. Status window Gander. Race, unknown. Class, Curse Mage. Level, 625. Tier 6. Title, Whisper of Decay. Affinity, Necrosis, Binding Rites, Soulbrand. The nobles instinctively shrink back as Gander steps into view, the air around him growing colder, heavier. Even the torches dim slightly. Alex gestures lazily toward the nobles without rising. This is Gander, he says, one of my most loyal subordinates. He specializes in curses, old, binding ones, the kind that ignore walls, bloodlines, and prayers. Gander stops at the center of the hall. He turns his eyeless gaze toward the nobles, who now stand stiff as statues, sweat beating down their necks. Alex continues, voice smooth as silk drawn over a blade. Each of you will be marked. It is not pain that comes first, no. Pain comes later. First you'll feel nothing. Perhaps a tug when you lie, a chill when you think of treason. But if you act against me, he pauses, then finishes coolly. You'll die, swiftly, horribly, in front of everyone you've ever loved. One noble lets out a quiet gasp. Another mutters a prayer under his breath. None dare move. Gander raises his staff, and the skull at its tip groans, its eye sockets alight with malevolent green. I bind thee, Gander intones, voice rasping like dry leaves dragging across stone. Soul to oath, flesh to will, mind to consequence. Dark runes flicker to life beneath each noble's feet, pulsing and climbing up their bodies in jagged, ethereal trails before vanishing beneath the skin. One noble cries out as the curse sears into his flesh, but Gander does not pause. When the final sigil fades, Gander lowers his staff. Silence falls again. Alex's voice is calm. There. Now we understand each other. Chapter 159. A Portal to the Unknown. Alex lets the silence stretch for a moment longer, eyes narrowing slightly as he watches the nobles shift, unsettled beneath their invisible brands. Then, without looking at them again, he speaks. You're dismissed. The nobles nearly trip over themselves in their rush to bow and back away, the polished floor echoing with nervous footsteps. None speak. None look back. As the heavy chamber doors groan shut behind them, sealing their fate under the cursed mage's watch, Alex finally turns his head. Come with me, he says quietly to Gander. The cursed mage inclines his head, the motion eerily smooth, like a marionette guided by invisible strings. He follows as Alex rises from the obsidian throne and strides down the black marble steps, his dark cloak trailing behind him like a shadow laced with embers. They walk through the newly claimed palace, its grandeur now twisted by Alex's presence. Once golden banners have been torn down and replaced with black silk marked with the sigil of his rule, an open eye wreathed in thorns. The air still smells faintly of scorched stone and death, remnants of the battle that shattered the capital just yesterday. As they pass through a long corridor, the massive vault doors at the end loom into view. Torn open by Alex earlier in the day, their enchanted locks broken like brittle bone under his power. They step inside the royal treasury. "I got nearly 50 million, Alex murmurs to himself. And yet, he glances over his shoulder. 30 million was the price to bring Gander back, he thought, and Gander who remains still, his green eye flames flickering faintly. Alex's thoughts drift backward just a few hours ago. Alex raises a hand. The system's interface hovers beside him, awaiting the final input. Revive named subordinate, Gander. Level, 625. Tier, 6 Curse Mage. Cost, 30 million gold coins. Proceed? He doesn't hesitate. Proceed. Then a scream. Not from Gander but from the space around them. Space bends inward as the soul merges with the ritual. Flesh growing from air. Bones knitting from ash. Smoke and thread stitch his body together. Eye flames returning with a snap of cursed wind. And just like that, he stands again. Now back in the present. Back in the silent vault where the gold no longer gleams quite as brightly. Alex turns his gaze toward the far wall. "Come," he says quietly to Gander, already striding forward. At first glance, the wall appears unremarkable. Smooth obsidian like the rest of the chamber, unbroken by door or handle. But Alex knows better. He found it earlier. A faint draft in a room that shouldn't breathe. A subtle distortion in mana that whispered of secrets sealed behind stone. He hadn't had time to open it then. But now, they stop before the section of wall that seems just a little too perfect. Alex lifts his hand, brushing his fingers against the cold surface. "Here," he says. "It's masked. Illusory layering over enchanted stone. Someone went to great lengths to keep this hidden." Gander steps forward, his long fingers trailing over the wall with delicate precision. His eye flames narrow slightly. "Fascinating," he murmurs, voice low and rasping. "This isn't just a physical barrier. It's warded with threading seals and displacement loops. Tier 6, almost." Alex raises an eyebrow. Someone didn't want this door touched. Gander's fingers stop near the center of the wall. He leans in, closer than most would dare to get, inhaling deeply through nostrils that are little more than carved slits beneath a web of scarred, sewn flesh. "Only by those with the blood can open it," he says slowly, the words slithering off his tongue like oil. Alex frowns, crossing his arms. "Royal bloodline, then?" Gander nods, his eye flames flickering with interest. "Yes, and not simply by presence. It requires intent, ritual knowledge. This door doesn't open by blood alone. It opens by memory, specific words passed down through generations. A command only the true heirs of Ordea would know." Alex clicks his tongue. "So, it will be hard to open this." "For most, yes." Gander steps back, his staff tapping lightly against the floor. "But this is a lock, Your Majesty, and locks can be broken." Alex gives him a look, somewhere between amused and expectant. "Show me." The curse mage's jaw creaks as it opens in a grin too wide for his face. "With pleasure." He plants the staff firmly in front of the door, then raises both hands. The air thickens immediately, as if the very stone begins to resist him. The enchantments flare, glyphs spiraling across the surface in violent protest. "The wall doesn't want to be opened." Gander's voice cuts through the pressure. "By the unseen strings, by bone and curse, I unweave thee." Runes spring into the air, tangled and writhing, pulled from the locks themselves. The wall groans, not physically, but spiritually, a sound that resonates deep in the chest. "By rot of oath and crumbling line, reveal thy truth to not thy kind, but mine." One by one the seals flicker, then scream. There is no other word for it. The sound is raw, hollow, ancient. The sigils twist violently before shattering like glass. Black smoke bleeds from the cracks, and the obsidian door trembles, no longer hiding its existence, but pleading not to be touched. Final layer, Gander says, voice strained now. It's anchored to the soul of the founder. They used a soulbrand key. Brilliant. Alex speaks coldly. Then kill it. Gander slams his staff to the ground, sending a jolt of cursed energy through the floor. The skull at the top lets out a low, warbling groan, and then, with a flash of green fire and a snap of unraveling spirit twine, the final enchantment shatters. The door howls. The wall pulls itself apart, not sliding or swinging, but disintegrating layer by layer, revealing a dark tunnel descending deeper into the stone. Cold, ancient air rushes out, tasting of old blood and extinguished names. Alex steps forward, peering down into the black. Alex doesn't pause. He walks into the darkness, boots thudding softly against ancient stone. Gander follows silently, and the air around them grows colder with each step, as if even time itself hesitated to breathe in this place. The tunnel spirals, etched with sigils so old they've nearly eroded into meaningless scratches. Here and there, faint lights shimmer. Minutes pass. Maybe more. The silence deepens until even the sound of their steps begins to feel like a violation. Then a chamber. The walls are cracked and uneven, the ceiling bowed with age, but at the center of the room stands a structure that immediately stops Alex in his tracks. Portal. Barely. It's a ring of stone, roughly carved and bound in runes that have faded to near invisibility. The air inside it ripples, sluggish and unstable. Mana sputters along its edges like wet fire. The portal is open, but barely holding. It flickers in and out, as though one breath might cause it to collapse entirely. Alex exhales slowly, lips curling into something between disbelief and disdain. This thing is even worse than my blueprint's lowest portal. He approaches it, crouching slightly to inspect the base. Cores degraded. No stabilizer array. The anchor is leaking into the floor. He taps the rim with a finger, stone chips off at his touch. How is this thing even still active? Gander tilts his head, the green flames of his eyes flaring slightly as he surveys the ancient gateway. It's not active in the traditional sense, he murmurs. It's clinging. A husk of what it was, held together by sheer stubborn magic. Alex rises, brushing his hands off. It's a miracle this thing hasn't collapsed in on itself. If someone actually tried to walk through it like this, they'd be lucky to come out with their bones intact. He turns toward Gander, brow raised. Can you stabilize it? Gander doesn't answer right away. He walks forward slowly, steps deliberate, robes dragging faint dust across the floor. He stops just short of the portal and lifts a hand. Murmured incantations slip from his mouth, too quiet for the stone to catch. Threads of black mana wind from his fingertips, snaking into the portal's frame. The unstable shimmer inside the ring flinches, sputters, then settles. The flickering light grows steady. The sputtering hum smooths into a deep, even pulse. Gander lowers his hand. The portal stands, whole. Alex watches it for a moment longer before speaking. That was fast. Gander's lips twitch into a thin, unsettling smile. It was never broken, just abandoned, left to rot without fuel, without guidance. All it needed was a command. Alex steps forward, stopping just at the threshold of the now stable portal. The energy rolls against his skin like warm mist. Where do you think it goes? Gander shrugs, the motion unsettling in its fluidity. Impossible to say, Your Majesty. Is not labeled, and the anchors are too weak to trace. But the spell matrix is purposeful. It was built to go somewhere specific, not random. Alex narrows his eyes at the portal's steady hum, then glances sideways at Gander. Be ready, he says, his voice quiet but firm. We're going in. Gander inclines his head once, wordless, and steps to Alex's side. The portal's light dances along his stitched features and flickering eye flames, casting unnatural shadows across the cracked chamber. Alex doesn't hesitate. He steps through. Light bends. Space folds. Sound evaporates. And then he lands. The crunch of leaves beneath his boots surprises him. He straightens quickly, eyes scanning the surroundings. Massive trees tower overhead, their trunks gnarled and roots tangled like veins in the earth. Pale mist clings to the forest floor, swirling slowly around the ankles. Chapter 160, Felinari. Alex exhales, a little stunned. "Oh, wow," he mutters, glancing around again. "That went more smoothly than I expected." He takes a slow step forward, the forest silent except for the faint rustling of unseen branches. No gander. Alex looks back, there's no portal. Just trees. Endless, unbroken trees. His brow furrows. Ha! He doesn't panic. Instead, he touches the space beside him, and the system's faint interface shimmers into view. Still functional. "Looks like we didn't arrive together," he mutters. The mist curls a little higher, and somewhere deep in the forest something cracks, like a branch under weight. Alex's eyes sharpen. "Well," he says under his breath, a faint smile playing at the corner of his lips. "Guess we find out where the hell I am." Alex rises slightly into the air, cloak whispering against the wind as he hovers just above the treetops. The canopy rustles beneath him, dense, wild, untouched. He narrows his gaze toward the direction of the sound he heard earlier. Another sharp crack cuts through the stillness, closer this time. Alex glides silently toward it, threading through the mist like a ghost. The branches shift and sway beneath his passage, and within moments, he reaches a small clearing tucked between twisted roots and stone outcroppings. His eyes land immediately on the scene below. In the clearing below, surrounded by snarling wolves nearly twice her size, stands a small humanoid girl with tiger-striped skin and a striped tail swaying behind her. Her ears are flattened, claws out, fangs bared in a desperate snarl. She backs up slowly, crouched low with tension coiled in her limbs. The wolves close in, growling low and steady. Foam lines one of their jaws. One lunges. Before it can land, Alex drops. He lands between them in an instant, boots striking the ground with a low, final thud. The force sends a light ripple through the earth, scattering leaves and snapping the momentum of every creature there. The wolves freeze. The girl blinks up at him, eyes wide with shock and something else. Confusion. Maybe. Her breath hitches. One of the wolves snarls louder in response, stepping forward. Alex doesn't move, but his presence does. A pulse of mana, coiling, unnatural, rolls out from him like a wave. The wolves recoil instantly, yelping and backing off, hackles rising. One bolts, the others follow, tails between their legs, vanishing into the misty woods without a second thought. Silence returns. Alex finally turns around. The tiger girl's breathing is shallow. Her tail flicks. She crouches like she's ready to run, muscles trembling. But she doesn't. Alex meets her gaze, then lowers himself to a knee, just enough so he's not towering. "You all right?" he asks, voice even. She blinks rapidly, then gives a quick, hesitant nod.
Yeah.
"I think so." Alex watches her for a moment, letting her catch her breath. Her body's still coiled like a spring, but her eyes are clearer now, sharp, wary, alive. "What's your name?" he asks, calm and direct. She hesitates, clearly debating whether to answer. Then, perhaps deciding she owes him at least that much, she mutters, "Ruva." Alex nods once. "Ruva," he repeats, then glances to the side as he calls up the interface with a flick of thought. The translucent screen flickers into view, shimmering just out of Ruva's line of sight. He narrows his eyes, focusing on her presence, and the system responds instantly, runes aligning into a compact, glowing profile. Name, Ruva. Race, Felinari. Level, 201. Status, wounded, mana depleted. Affinity, wind. Alex tilts his head slightly as he reads the display, a flicker of interest lighting behind his eyes. Tier 2 already, he thinks. And that young. Interesting. He lets the interface fade and turns his full attention back to her. Her small hands are clenched at her sides, but she's not shaking anymore, just watching him, guarded. "What were you doing out here?" Alex asks gently. Ruva stiffens. Her ears droop a little, and her mouth opens like she's about to answer, but then her eyes well up with sudden tears. I don't know," she chokes out, voice cracking. "I just ran. Last night, my village, there was fire. I woke up and everything was burning. I couldn't find anyone. I just ran." She hiccups, rubbing at her face with the back of her wrist. Alex's expression softens. "Oh," he murmurs, the sound more like a breath than a word. His posture eases. Then suddenly, growl. The sound is soft, almost comically so, but it cuts through the silence like a stone dropped in still water. Ruva freezes. Her stomach growls again, louder this time, and her ears flatten against her head in pure embarrassment. Her face flushes as she curls slightly inward, trying to pretend like it didn't happen. Alex raises an eyebrow, then lets out a quiet chuckle. He shifts, reaching into the folds of his cloak. "Are you hungry?" he asks, his voice warm now, coaxing. A small smile touches his lips, just enough to ease the tension, to remind her he's not a threat. Ruva looks up at him warily, then gives the smallest nod. "A little. I've got something here," Alex says, pulling out a wrapped ration, simple, compact, but more than enough for a starving kid. He kneels again and holds it out slowly, letting her see it before offering it forward. It's not fancy, but it's warm. Ruva stares at it for a second like she's not sure it's real. Then, cautiously, she creeps forward on all fours, eyes flicking between the food and Alex's face. Her claws gently take the package from his hand, and she hugs it close before unwrapping it like it's some sacred treasure. She doesn't speak, but the way she devours the first few bites says everything. Alex watches quietly, then leans back on one knee, arms resting across his leg. "Take your time," he says softly, gaze drifting toward the trees. "You're safe now." And for the first time since she appeared, Ruva's tail gives a small, slow flick. Not in fear, but relief. When the last bite is gone, Ruva sits back on her heels, licking a crumb from her thumb. Her posture is less tight now, shoulders lower, tail relaxed against the forest floor. She looks at Alex, not quite smiling, but no longer afraid. Alex studies her face for a moment, then speaks gently. "Ruva, do you remember where your village is?" She hesitates, biting her lip. Her eyes drop to the ground. "Mister," she says quietly, "are you going to help me?" Alex blinks. Then, with a faint, lopsided grin, he nods. "Yeah, I am." Her eyes flicker up, just a little wider. "We'll go check your village," Alex continues, standing now and offering a hand down to her. "See if anyone else made it out. All right?" Ruva hesitates for a breath. Then her small hand slips into his. Alex squeezes gently. "And one more thing," he adds. "Stop calling me Mister. Makes me feel old." She tilts her head, confused. "Then, what should I call you?" Alex smirks. "Call me Big Brother Alex." "Got it." Her ears twitch. "Big Brother?" He nods once, confident. "That's right." For the first time, Ruva's lips curl into a tiny, shy smile. "Okay, Big Brother Alex." Alex ruffles her hair with one hand, making her let out a small, startled sound, but she doesn't pull away. "Good. Let's go." He glances toward the forest. "Lead the way if you can. We'll find what's left. Together." The forest gives way to the charred edge of a clearing as they move. Ruva walks beside him, her hand still gripping his loosely. The air grows heavier the closer they get. Ruva's steps slow. When the first broken fence post comes into view, splintered and blackened, Alex's expression hardens. Then, past it, the village opens up. What's left of it. Alex stopped. Ruva stops beside him. She doesn't speak. Her eyes go wide, and her tail droops flat against the back of her legs. Alex takes a breath, then turns slightly. His voice is low but firm. Ruva. Stay here. She doesn't move. Let me go first. I'll check if it's safe. Alex says, gentler now. But her voice cuts in before he can take a step. Can I come with you, big brother? She says it quietly, but there's a tremor in her tone. Like she's holding something back. Alex turns to her fully. She clenches her small fists at her sides, jaw tight. I need to see. I have to see if my parents are still here. For a long moment, Alex doesn't speak. He watches her, how her shoulders shake even as she stands her ground, how her claws dig slightly into her palms, holding back whatever pain is building. Then slowly he nods. All right, he says quietly, but stay close to me. Ruva gives a shaky nod. Okay. Alex reaches out, brushing his hand over the top of her head again. Gentler this time. Come on, he murmurs. Let's go find them. They step into the village. Or what's left of it. The ashes are cold now. The fires have long since died, but the smell lingers. Smoke and charred wood, something acrid underneath. Bones and blackened debris litter the pathways. Cracked pots, collapsed roofs. A single wooden toy,